Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to LabelTV, a Pan-African international channel broadcasting from our studio headquarters in Libreville. And you are watching the 7th round, the program that takes a look at issues that makes the headlines during the week. As usual, today we are discussing the 2020 ranking of military powers in Africa. And when we come back in the second round, we take a look at the European Union that want abuses in Uganda's election to be probed. And to discuss this issue with me today is Jean-Michel Bade.
Hello, Mr. Willie. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good, I'm good.
And Wayne Pendy.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Wayne, it's good to see you again.
Oh, yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, we'll take 2020 ranking of military powers in Africa after this report. In 2021, Egypt remains the leading military power in Africa, according to the latest annual ranking established by the Global Firepower, GFP, an American site specializing in defense issues. As was the case in previous years, the Global Firepower Index 2021 assesses the conventional military capabilities, land, sea, and air, of 138 countries around the world, including 35 countries in Africa, on the basis of around 50 indicators. This year, the index incorporates 3 new indicators: the in-flight refueling fleet, the helicopter carrier fleet, and the paramilitary forces by country. Egypt continues to dominate the continent military, with an army whose strength reaches 930,000 men, including 450,000 in active service, 1,053 aircraft, 11,000 armored vehicles, and 316 naval vehicles. However, unlike last year, Egypt comes out of the top 10 world military powers. Algeria, South Africa, Nigeria, and Morocco, which replaces Angola this year, complete the top 5 African military powers in 2021. The most significant drop is recorded by Burkina Faso, which has lost 32 places this year. Côte d'Ivoire also loses 11 places in this ranking. Angola and DRC are also down 10 places each. Libya and Ghana recorded good performances each, progress by 10 places in the global ranking. Globally, the top 5 military powers in 2021 remain dominated by the United States, Russia, China, India, and Japan, respectively. Thank you for being there. Now let's look at the top 5 military powers in Africa. That is Egypt, Algeria, South Africa, Nigeria, and Morocco, which are regarded as the most important military powers. Yeah. Jean-Michel, how do you see the top 5?
Well, when I see the top 5, I clearly see that it makes sense to me when it comes to Egypt, Algeria, and Morocco, because this is the Maghreb, which is a part of the African continent, which has never really been into alignment with what the Western countries have done into the continent. So they've always really fought for their independence, and we know what happened with Egypt and Israel in the 60s. We know how Algeria got its independence. South Africa, of course, well, it comes into play also within those top 5. Because yes, we know how they got there, how they got free also, from the apartheid system. What I clearly don't understand is what is Nigeria doing here with all the equipment they have, I'm not doubting this, and still having to, deal with Boko Haram as we've been talking about last year. So that's the thing.
Yes, we will look at that. When you look at the top 5, Egypt's first, according to the report, Egypt has 933,000 men, 450 in active service. How do you see Egypt in this?
Yeah, I think Jean-Michel has put it perfectly. You see, Egypt is a country that has been in war against a country like Israel. So it's something you have to take into account. It's not a small nation today, and it's the 9th in the world ranking. So Egypt is a superpower in terms of military and defense.
Military and defense. Then we have Algeria in the second. Then we have South Africa. When you take into consideration that South Africa also do manufacture some arms.
Yes, they do. South Africa, they do manufacture, but they're also within the BRICS. They call it the BRICS with Brazil, Russia, and India, and China as well. So this is a small group of leaders where competition is there. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, they just benefit from this competition, from those competitors, which are partners at the same time. So yes.
As you said, we look at Nigeria on the third position. They mean in the fourth position, coming after South Africa, Nigeria, and then Morocco overtook Angola, which was the fifth position last year. Well, when you look at Nigeria and then you look at the state of insecurity, and still Nigeria is still complaining that they do not have enough weapons to fight the jihadists in the country.
Yeah, I think that's a matter of internal organization, you see, because the way the weapons should be distributed and the way they organize the missions on the ground, you see, this has to be taken into account in the effectiveness of what they do on the ground. And I think, yeah, that's the point.
That's the point. Okay, out of these 35 countries in Africa, assessed by based on 50 indicators, and 3 new indicators were also observed. That is the in-flight refueling fleet, the helicopter carrier fleet, and the paramilitary forces of country. Let's look at the helicopter, because this is what could have made most of the country to drop, because to afford a country to afford all this military waste it's difficult.
Yeah, pretty difficult actually. Can you come again on the...
Yes, I'm talking about the helicopter carrier fleet and the paramilitary forces.
Yeah, they had to be engaged in first of all getting those, and now that they have it, they put it in place and try to...
Yes, oftentimes citizens do complain that maybe some government are investing much money in purchasing, in getting arms. But when you look at the world ranking like this, Africa is just, most of the African countries are quite behind. So
exactly.
why must citizens be complaining of government equipping their military that will protect a country?
It sometimes, to me, gives me like a sense of the military going against its own population. Because when we riot, or when there are some riots, wherever the case is on our beloved continent, we see the police come in well-equipped, well-armed against us and disperse who they have to disperse or whatever. But when it comes to fighting real phenomenon, like Boko Haram, for example, because this is the point I want to drive at, Mr. Willie. I do respect Nigeria and all the potentials and the intellectuals in there, just that if we, among the 5 countries on the African soil to have powerful militaries, we have to feel some sense of, safety at home, which is not the case right now. Is it the regime which clearly has failed? Is it on purpose? Is there...
Yes, you are quite right, because when you look at most of this country, Egypt, Algeria, Nigeria, and Morocco, they are sometimes prone to attack, jihadist attack.
Exactly.
Algeria, yes. So,
Yeah.
What is the problem if we have the top 5 and this country are still prone to attack? So what will happen to those on the list?
You have this top 5, but I wanted to come back on the case of DR Congo, which is the 8th, so which is in the top 10. DR Congo has a natural wealth, which is subject to a lot of competition from superpowers, external superpowers that want actually to acquire this. And this is one of the reasons why you can see the country in the top 10 today, and they fight accordingly. So I don't totally agree when you say that they don't care about their own people inside, but they do try for a country like DR Congo, and that's actually...
Yeah, because if you take the case of DR Congo, as I said, this is a fast, very big country. Yes,
it's big. There are a lot of belligerents. They come from everywhere, from the whole environment. I mean, the surrounding states. So DRC is just something else. DRC is just
Yes.
It's just a melting pot of belligerents, if I may say.
Yes. Is it, as you said, is it the training actually that we should have to really make sure we have a robust army on the continent? Because if you look at all the flash sport, the troubling sport in the Central African Republic, in Sudan, in all these places, what would have stopped a robust African peacekeeping mission to go out there and maintain peace and keep, example, in Central African Republic, and just put the place in peace?
Well, probably the policies around, I'd say. I mean, you don't get equipment to play around with this or get trained at the end. You go for the training first, and then you acquire the material you need.
Yeah.
So I think those countries know that, they go for that. And again, we're talking about respectable countries here. Egypt, Algeria, South Africa, Nigeria. They're respectable people, and they know exactly what to do. When it comes to Nigeria, for example, from the independence up to now, they've been ruled by military people. So they know exactly what to do. So I think it's a matter of politics, if not policies, to be put aside, to be put around. I mean, come up with and then attack whatever we need to attack.
Yeah.
So that's my point when it comes to how effective the military system, the African military systems, have to go against whatever we're going through, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Willie said something which is very important about the training of the soldiers, actually.
Yeah.
And once more, we come back with this thing of interest. You see, today in the Central African Republic, you have a contract with them, the country, and Russia, to train, the militaries there in order to fight against the militias that are running in the country. So that's through this cooperation that they will probably have a stronger army, and at the end of the day they will bring it to an end, the violence in the country.
Okay, to bring it to the end, because let's look at the country like Gabon is ranked 32, Sierra Leone 33, Somalia 34, and Liberia 35. 35 African countries were assessed. So how do you look at the country that rocked the bottom in terms of the military power?
I think it's the first point which should be taken into account is the money available in the country. And second, the money allocated to the army. For a country like Gabon, which has never been through wars, internal and external conflicts of the kind, it's difficult to allocate a certain amount of money to the military power.
Sure.
So they put it in other staff education, even though in Gabon you see that education is not that developed.
Yeah. Now, when you look at Sierra Leone, they had the civil war, was very bad. You look at Somalia, it's also struggling with Al-Shabaab and the military. You also look at Liberia, there were also, I think, the military civil war. So what do you make of Sierra Leone, Somalia, and Liberia that propped
When we know the past of those countries, I know for sure they need to go for stronger armies. But at the end, when you come out of a war, you need to rebuild on your education system, on society, infrastructures. So it takes a lot of money, billions, I guess. So I think those countries should be helped, probably like by the African Union, not always by the United States.
To acquire weapons.
Yes, of course. Instead of seeing the United States coming just like in Libya or
of course, you might get a point because in case of Somalia, it's an attack every other weekend. You have been seeing it.
And sometimes even when they are provided with the weapons, at the end of the day, it goes against their own people, like the case of Uganda.
Exactly.
Today there's this problem between Kampala and Washington DC.
Yes. Okay. Finally, let's look at the top 5 globally, which we are the United States, Russia, China, India, and Japan. These are the top 5. Do you think anything could have changed there? United States, Russia, China, India, and Japan.
Well, I thought by now we would have seen maybe North Korea popping inside, but maybe they just don't tell us the truth. For what I see, yes.
Yes, definitely you are correct there. North Korea is loaded with...
it is.
Even the one that we have not seen.
Yes.
Lots of military armory that we have not seen. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, this was done by a U.S. agency.
Yes, agency. So yes, defense issue. That is global firepower.
Exactly. Yes, so it respects the program. Maybe it goes by the program. It abides by it. So we can't say anything. But again, the United States are spread around the world.
Yeah.
So clearly it remains a big power, maybe not the most powerful, but it is a big power.
Yes, I was expecting France to come in here in terms of European country and the top 5, but it is not there.
No, France is going far now.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what's the place in front. Do you have it now? But no. Currently, I think even Germany is going better than France.
The UK.
Okay. What do your last word here before we move into the next?
Well, my last word is what we all think. We need a blockers when it comes to the African continent to go against. I mean, not go against, but to stand on stronger points. We need a good armies because at the end of the day, sometimes you need to be robust, like you said, to impose what you need to say, to impose what your grounds are. So yes.
Perfectly said. Once more by Mr. Michel. It's like the point. A stronger army to fight against terrorist attacks and all those.
Yeah, we need a strong military on the continent to repel all the attacks that we might be envisioned at any point in time. That's it for the first round. We're discussing the top military powers in Africa. And when we come back after this report, we are going to look at the European Union that wants abuses against opposition politicians in Uganda to be probed. We'll discuss this after this report. The European Union, EU, says it is concerned about the continued harassment of politicians and civil society activists in Uganda after last week's general election. The incumbent president, Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986, won his 6th elective term. In a statement, the EU Council of Ministers called on the government to restrain its security agencies, investigate allegations of abuses, and bring to account all those responsible for violations. The vote was marred by harassment of opposition candidates, suppression of media, and a nationwide internet shutdown. Opposition presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, a pop star turned politician known as Bobi Wine, has been under house arrest in the capital, Kampala, since Friday after he began disputing the results of the presidential election. The EU minister said the internet shutdown disrupted the work of journalists, observers, and polling agents expected to monitor the election. Election observers from the regional East African community have echoed the concerns of the EU in their preliminary report. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, and the African Union said the elections were peaceful. Thank you for being there. Penty, let me begin with you. Bobi Wine still under house arrest more than 10 days after the election was conducted and won.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about. It's this violence, and it's this violence that the European Union is trying to condemn. You see at the beginning of their declaration, the first thing they say is that they take note of the results of the election. So normally it's done. Everything should be done in the country. And further in the declaration, they say that they're just sad to see that what's going on in the country right now, because you still have violences against politicians and for guys from the civil
society.
From the civil society.
Yes, Jean-Michel.
Yes.
Do we need European Union to tell Uganda that these right abuses should be investigated, whereas all of us African, we saw what happened during and after the election?
That's one of the questions I wanted to set right here on this table first. I mean, where is Cyril Ramaphosa, the African Union president? What is he doing? Is he on holidays? What's going on? Uganda is very close to him. He knows what's going on there. And he's not saying anything, I just don't get it. And again, I can't believe it. I so wish somebody pinched me out of this nightmare if I was having a nightmare here. Are we talking about Robert Kyagulanyi, Member of Parliament of Uganda? Come on, we're in the 21st century, Mr. Willie. We really don't need this. I so wish Mr. Museveni was watching us here, and I'll just let him know that we don't need this for this African continent, not on the 21st century.
But the military was saying, they were saying they are protecting, they are protecting him.
Protecting who?
Protecting who?
No, that is what the military said. They said they are protecting him. Is that how to protect somebody? I mean,
Museveni said he's an agent of foreign interests, so they're protecting an agent of foreign interests.
This is what the ruling government, they will always say about oppositions, that they are agents of foreigners that are trying to take over power from them. Well, this is, we have heard it before. We heard it in Tanzania. We heard it, in fact, all over Africa when opposition are too strong for a sitting president to handle. So what they come out is to say is that they are agents of
foreign interests.
Yes, of foreign interests. Do you think Robert Kyagulanyi, Bobby Wine, is agent of foreign interests?
No, definitely not. He doesn't have a militia. He doesn't have the money for it. He's not into the bushes. He's not trying to organize something from the bushes.
He's coming from the ghetto. He said it all the time.
This is it. It's just a pity. I can't believe this.
Yes, and that brings me to this question that why is ruling government always afraid of opposition? You see it in Guinea, you see it in Uganda, you are seeing it in Tanzania. In fact, even in Cameroon, you will see all this. When opposition that is strong come out to contest the election, it has always been this confrontation and intimidation between the government in power and the opposition. Why do we have this? Let me take it to you.
I'm afraid they're themselves afraid of what can come after. Because when someone has been in power he's there since
for the land is 46.
That's an entire life, and he has probably made some things in the dark that he doesn't want to be now known in the country or in the world, and he cannot leave the power being alive. These are the kind of politicians we see in Africa all the time.
I agree with him. I want to add that by the time Mr. Museveni came into power, he was probably the very same age that Mr.
Robert Kyagulanyi.
So he sees a young man come in and trying to topple him the right way, legally, and he can't just stand it. And this is what probably runs into the back of his mind, and this is what we've been observing also in South Africa. Just a small brief here. It is that young man Malema,
Julius Malema,
who's also going on the very same path.
I watched an interview where the journalist was asking Mr. Museveni, don't you feel like this guy looks a bit like you when you were younger? Young politician, gathering much people behind him. Exactly. And he said, no, because he's an agent of foreign interest. And he's manipulated by European journalists, and that's what he said.
Yes, even still in that interview, Museveni said he was the one that brought democracy into Uganda. If you look at it, do you think that democracy is really in Uganda based on what he said on that interview? I also watched it.
Well, from the very democracies, the small democracies that I know, and I mean democracy-abiding states that I know, it never comes from military. So I don't know what type of democracy he's talking about, but I don't know what he means. I definitely don't know what he means.
I know. It's definitely a democrature. A democrature is a mix of a democracy and a dictator. A dictator, actually. So
no, I don't think he's a dictator. It's just that he's very strong into his power, which he doesn't want to leave. And yes, using by all means, trying to stay here, because we remember again.
Do you think we will have a free and fair election in Africa where the loser will congratulate the winner? Do you think that is possible in the near future?
In the near future, I don't know. I even have bad feelings.
Well, but we have to be optimistic here. We've seen it before. We've seen it in Benin. We've seen it in Ghana.
In Nigeria. Yes.
The problem.
Yes, good luck, Jonathan.
We've seen it before. So it's just other countries who behave like bad students who have to look up at Ghana, Nigeria, or Benin, and Senegal, and just go for this way.
There's someone close to Museveni who said that when Museveni is the president, he is the president of all the administration of the country. So he is deep inside the administration of the country. So when it comes to election, he will always try to manipulate the results.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you cannot have a democracy like this. You cannot have a democracy in which there is an internet blackout.
This when it's elections time.
Yeah, this is attack to freedom of speech.
True.
Okay, finally, United States is contemplating imposing sanctions on the electoral officers. Is that the way to check?
Well, we're not expecting anything from the United States. They just went through their elections themselves, quite looking like an African state this time. So
maybe
we can't really expect anything from them right now.
Maybe they feel a bit guilty because they're those who provide the...
do you think Americans are killed on the election because at the end of it, the institution was stronger than a human being?
It was, but with what we've seen, it was quite looking like some of our countries here on this continent. So I don't think we need to learn any lessons from them right now. I so wish we could have the African Union standing out, talking, and ruling what's going on, ruling Uganda.
Okay, Pendi, your last word before we
what will remain my last word is exactly what he has said. African Union, you need to have a strong institution in the continent which is able to settle down conflicts in the countries of the continent.
Yeah.
Yes, Jean-Michel.
My last word is that Uganda needs to come back to real democracy. Museveni has to respect what he claims he came up with, democracy. He won the elections, fine. He needs to let Mr. Kibulani enjoy his life and his freedom.
Yeah.
Okay, Museveni should let the opposition be. That is, and with that note, we have come to the end of today's episode of the 7th round. We hope you'll be with us next Sunday to discuss yet more interesting topic that affects our social lives on the continent. My name is Joe Willie. Thank you for watching. Until next Sunday, I will see you again.